What's up guys? In today's video I wanted to talk about unsustainable diets. The problem with most diets out there is that they're not sustainable. And what do I mean by that? I mean, let's take, for example, intermittent fasting. A lot of people, let's say, eat for 8 hours a day. And then when their weight loss stalls, then what do? They go to 6 hours a day. And what do they do after their weight loss stalls again? They go to 4, they go to 2, they go to 1. They go to 1 meal a day, and that's it. And then what happens when their weight loss stalls after that? Well, then they go to fasting. And this is the topic that I wanted to talk about today, is fasting and unsustainable diets, because it's a slippery slope once you flip that switch and go to fasting every single day. So yes, some people have fasted before under supervision of doctors, but that was an extraordinary case. This guy's name was actually Angus Berberine, or something along those lines, and he went from 425 pounds to roughly 180 pounds under doctor supervision, but he was extremely fat. And he didn't eat for about 380 days, and he lost an incredible amount of weight. He was drinking water. He did have vitamins and minerals that he was given to help, keep his system functioning. But he had an extraordinary amount of fat that he was burning through that amount of time. For a lot of people out there, they don't have an extreme amount of fat that they're burning through, and in my perspective, no one needs to be fasting for 3, 4, 5, 6 days at a time. And that's unfortunately what some people have been doing when their weight loss stalls. Let's say after they try intermittent fasting and then they realize, well, what's the next step? The next step to take is not to eat for a day. The next step is not to eat for 2 days, and so on and so forth. And more recently, I had somebody ask me, what my opinion was on fasting for 5 days at a time. And I wanted to give it in this video. With that being said, if you are fasting 5 days at a time, like I said before, and this is a true life scenario, somebody that I know is in fact fasting for 4 or 5 days at a time, not eating any food, and then just drinking water during that period. And then on the 4th or 5th day, they are eating food, and their weight loss has stalled, and it's like, what is the next step that I take? Now, this is not somebody that I know on a personal level. Obviously, if I knew them directly, I would try to help them out. It's just like a friend of a friend that I'm, talking about here. So anyway, what happens when you get to that point where you're fasting for that multiple days at a time, and then your weight loss stalls again? And this is where this person is. Do you go for a 6th day? Do you go for a 7th day? Where do you draw the line? And that's where these diets become super unsustainable, because it's a slippery slope. Once you make that change in order to not eat, where do you go from there? What do you do? Do you just put your energy expenditure through the roof? Do you start taking other supplements to help you burn fat? And that's where it gets super tricky. So when people are fasting, especially for long periods of time, as bodybuilders, we know that we need to fuel our bodies in order to not only perform, but also to repair. So if someone is fasting for an extended period of time, you may see the scale go down. Yes, you may be burning through some fat storage, and that's going to happen. But what happens, when you don't eat, and if you're working out and you're breaking down your cells and you're breaking down your muscle and you're not repairing them, you're going to start to lose muscle mass. We all know, from being a bodybuilder that, we take in protein, we take in other food to help repair ourselves. But if we fast for extended periods of time, and I'm not just talking about for a day or two, I'm talking about, if we go through this cycle of not eating for 4, 5, 6 days at a time, we're eventually going to start losing muscle mass. So if we start losing muscle mass, what's going to happen? Well, our metabolic rate's going to drop because we're losing muscle mass. We know that it takes energy, calories to sustain that muscle. So our metabolic rate's going to drop. We're going to start to get to that skinny fat stage that a lot of people are scared of, because obviously if we're losing muscle mass, we're not going to have the big round muscles maybe that we once had before. Our energy levels are going to dip, obviously from not eating, but also from losing that muscle mass. We're just going to look a lot worse. So with that being said, like I do not recommend people fast for extended periods of time like that. And sure, if it's for religious reasons, where if you're, let's say you're fasting for 30 days, like Ramadan was this past month, people are doing that, and that's totally fine, but they still eat every single day. It's just within a certain hour of window that they're eating and or not eating. So if you find yourself, and this is just one example, I've had people tell me that, when I used to work at the gym, I used to hear a lot of things. And one of the other things I heard was, well, I just eat a can of soup every single day. That's it. And we all know a can of soup is what, 100 to maybe 200 calories max. How do you overcome that? How do you get out of that? Well, the first thing you have to realize is just that, you are in an unsustainable diet. Can you physically eat one can of soup for the rest of your life? Well, maybe you can, but is that really the way that you want to live your life? Do you really want to live your life, eating every 5th or 6th day? Once again, probably not. So how do you get out of these extreme diets? How do you overcome, only eating kale every single day and that's it? Well, you have to realize that this diet that you're on is unsustainable. You eventually have to, start eating every single day. You have to start, just kind of making the decision that you have to eat more food. And yeah, is your weight going to come back up over time? Probably, because if you're eating more food, obviously, your weight's going to come up slightly. But we can't just be focused on the scale, because in this circumstance or in these extreme circumstances, our health is more at risk than this for the sake of us, seeing the scale go down a few pounds. And I think that's where people, they get disillusioned when we get on these kind of diets, is because, you read something on the internet, you see something on the internet, and you think, well, that person got results. Maybe if I do the same thing, it'll work for me too. And these extreme measures in my book are unnecessary. And there's the meme out there of the kid taking a step, on the stairs with his foot up, and he's reaching for the top step, skipping like 5 steps. And I think that that's what these people do. They go from, okay, I want to try to lose weight to, maybe the first thing you should do is try to work out more. Maybe the second thing you should do is actually track your intake, and then try to do a little bit of cardio, maybe use some supplements. But no, they go to these extreme measures right off the bat without any, sense of repercussions of what is to come. If you go from, just being kind of overweight to wanting to lose a few pounds to all of a sudden not eating for 5 days at a time, or just eating a can of soup a day, that, yeah, that might be short-term results. You might get it because it's an extreme measure. But anything that is extreme is not going to be sustainable. So if you know somebody out there, that's in this kind of situation, it's almost kind of a need to intervene. And I know it's really tricky of a situation when you see somebody in it because they think, so-and-so said on the internet that they saw this, or maybe they saw that study about that Angus guy, who lost all that weight and he didn't eat for 380 days. Well, once again, that was under medical supervision. But these, other people, and especially these influencers, and I use that term, obviously, kind of taking a jab at people. These influencers don't realize when they promote products or promote these diet methods that people actually listen to them. And these methods can be very, very dangerous. So, that's why I wanted to talk about these unsustainable diets and how, it could actually be very detrimental to someone if they're on them for an extended period of time. Not only, from a physical, but also a mental standpoint, because, once again, it's that slippery slope. If they, keep going down that rabbit hole of, not eating in a certain window to extending that time, and then next thing you know, the person is just straight up not eating. And that's, almost, it's a disability, it's a disease when they're doing that. So it's a tough video to make today, because, we are, so focused on our visual look, on the scale and what the scale does, that sometimes we forget about our own well-being. So that's it today's video, guys. As always, keep dominating every aspect. I'll see you soon.